My name is Yoder, and this is my game called Starship Maneuver. So let's see how it looks. So that was Starship Maneuver. It was a little short 2D game, but let's see what goes into it. Let's see the complexities of this code. So we start off with declaring your SFML graphics, physics, and audio classes. And with these classes, that will be the major part of this code. So the first thing I did was I wanted to bring in the keyboard classes of SFML to create the movement for the rocket ship in the game, as you saw. So the movement is done by your up, right, left, down keys. But one thing that is different, as you can see here, is the up key. So this little comment that I put down, the reason why it's multiplied by 2 is because of the physics added on the ship. So when a rocket ship is moving upwards, you can feel that pull down to the further part of the screen. So you have to hold up pretty much the entire time you're playing the game. So it can't be just a game where you just sit still and just do absolutely nothing. So then we come upon rendering the window. So our window is 800 by 600 pixels, which was the usual window size of our past assignments. And we come upon adding the background. So the background image, I want to be just a very blacked out space background with a few stars. So you can see all the sprites and the blaster bolts on the screen. And a little fun addition to this code that I had a good time figuring out was how sound and audio worked. So what I did for the cruising was I add the spaceship cruising. So every time you move the ship, it would make like a rocket thrust sound. Then we come to the main music of this code, which was the rock music code. So I thought it'd be cool to add some rock background music throughout the main game. And then you have the sound of the blaster bolts. Every time you press the space bar and the blaster bolt comes out, it have like a laser sound effect every time you shoot it. So it seemed like an actual starship shooting its blaster bolts. This little sound clip, which you probably noticed at the end of the code once you got the game over, was the game over sound effect that I decided to add in to reference the old retro arcade games that had similar sounds. And adding to the world of the game, I added the score, which you start at 0, then the bolts, which you have a quantity of 20, and then you have 5 lives. So the bolts would decrease every time you use the space bar. And the lives would also decrease every time you collide with an asteroid. So this area is where I declared all of the sprites that will show up in this game. So we start off with the full green health bar. The reason why I added this was to show the player that this area is your health, and that's what you'll be looking at throughout the game so you don't get a game over. And then I have the size and location of the rocket ship when it first comes up on the screen, then showing the blaster bolt, and then your boundary rectangles as well. Then we have the asteroid, and then we come upon the first bit of collision. And right here, I want to do like a, definitely not a Star Wars font. It'd be awesome if there's a Star Wars font. So I add this font style that could go with the space aesthetic of the game. Then you include the time for the code as well. So there's a time throughout this whole game because timing is very important when it comes to coding this game. The bulk of the code comes from this while loop right here. So while the bolts and the lives are greater than 0, all this happens. So this is where you bring in the time to it. So whenever the Delta asteroid gets up to 2000, I declare all 5 asteroids. Now I have the sprites created, I set the textures, set the velocities for each of the asteroids. And I have them put in specific places so they don't just come up in a straight line every time they are rendered into the game. And then you on the physics to the asteroids as well, which leads into the collisions for each asteroid. So we come upon the collisions for this game. So there are 2 collisions throughout for each asteroid, and this same will be shown throughout all these asteroids. So let's take the first asteroid, for example. So the first if statement I have for a collision includes the bolts, the world, the rocket ship, the lives, the asteroid, the score, and everything on there. Like pretty much everything in this game is included in this collision. So to be able to have the bolts disappear and the asteroid disappear every time you shoot your bolt and it hits the asteroid and gives you the score, this is how it happens. So once the bolt hits the asteroid, the bolt the bolt is taken away. So that's where you get this false right here. And then you remove the physics from the bolt. So removing the physics pretty much just has it stay still, but it also just removes the image whenever it's collided with the asteroid. And whenever the bolt hits the asteroid, your score is increased by 10. And the second part is for the rocket ship. So this is where the live system shows up and it's utilized in this code. So when it comes to the collision of the rocket ship, same thing pretty much happens with the bolt collision. So you have the bolt is removed from the equation, also is the asteroid. But then every time the rocket ship hits the asteroid, it loses a life. So that decreases, and then as you see up here, the score increases. And this is the same for all the asteroids that are shown. And then we get to what I was talking about earlier by pressing the space bar to make the blaster bolts. So this is saying, this is the speed right here, this delta ms right here is the speed of the bolts right here. And then you get the velocity, your direction. And this is a negative one because it will shoot upwards. You shoot up in the y direction. Which when you think about math, that may not make sense. When I was thinking about initially did not make sense, but in messing around with the physics, you would have to put negatives to make it accelerate upward. And every time the bolt shows up on the screen, you decrease the amount of bolts by 1. And the shoot play is where the blaster bolt music and audio comes in. When we come upon drawing the blaster bolt, that's where the bolt is drawn, as each image has to have a window draw with it. Then you also have to have the rocket ship and the health bar as well. And this area is drawing, as you see in this little comment, it draws the coordinates in the font for the score, the bolts, and the health text. So in here you see, so the score text and the bolt text both at the bottom of the screen. And then the life is at the top left of the screen. So the position and the little bounds of it, the text bounds, as it says here, are drawn within this segment of the code. Then getting down to the file bits of the code, this is where the game over stuff is shown. So at the middle of the screen, you probably can't really see it because the asteroid color was the same as the game over text. So the game over, as you see here, it's font is declared, the string of what it says is declared, but also you get your coordinates right here as well. And at the same time, while this game over text is being shown, you can also see the game over audio is being played at the same time. And when the game over text is showing, it's presented, the game over audio is played, but our main audio, the rock music audio, is paused. So the rock music will not play anymore, and the game over audio will show. So that's the entirety of the code, and that is how Starship Maneuver works.